Commander Forlag's scaled fingers tapped rhythmically on the armrest of his command chair, each tap punctuated by the soft click of his razor-sharp claws against the polished metal. The bridge of the Night Hunter was silent, except for the occasional beep of monitoring systems and the low hum of the ship's engines idling in stealth mode. Hidden within the hollowed interior of a small asteroid, the Predator ship was perfectly positioned for ambush. "Status report," Forlag rumbled, his four eyes narrowing as they swept across the bridge crew. The old Xylosian's dark scales were marked with pale scars, each one a testament to centuries of warfare and survival. In the dim red lighting of the bridge, the intricate patterns of his battle markings seemed to shift and move across his armored hide. Zwayan, a slender figure hunched over the navigation console, spoke without turning around. "Target convoy is proceeding as anticipated, Commander. They will pass through the Corvus Gap in approximately 43 minutes. His voice was soft, almost timid, a stark contrast to the deadly efficiency with which he plotted interception courses. Their escort ships are arranged in standard defensive formation, nothing we haven't dealt with before." Forlag bared his fangs in what passed for a smile among the Xylosians. "Good. Very good." He rose from his chair, towering over the rest of the bridge crew. Standing at his full height, Forlag was an imposing figure, 3 meters of muscle, scale, and calculated violence. He moved to the tactical display, where a three-dimensional projection showed the asteroid field and the approaching convoy's path. Ryla looked up from her weapons station, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Like all members of Kthar's Claws, she was Xylosian, but smaller and more agile than her commander. What she lacked in brute strength, she made up for in speed and precision. The twin vibroblades strapped to her back were rumored to have tasted the blood of over 1,000 victims. "Weapons are hot and ready," she reported, her clawed fingers dancing over the controls. "I've recalibrated the phase disruptors to bypass their shield frequencies. They won't know what hit them until it's too late." "Excellent." Forlag turned to the massive figure standing silently by the entrance to the bridge. "Grok." The hulking Xylosian inclined his head slightly. Grok was a mountain of muscle and armor, a full head taller than even Forlag and twice as broad. His hide bore so many scars that in places it resembled cracked stone more than living tissue. As always, he carried his infamous graviton hammer strapped to his back, a weapon that few creatures in the galaxy could even lift, let alone wield effectively. "Boarding teams are ready," Grok rumbled, his voice so deep it seemed to vibrate through the deck plates. "We will crush any resistance." Forlag nodded approvingly. Kthar's Claws were the most feared mercenary group in the Outer Territories, and for good reason. They hadn't failed a mission in over 30 cycles. Their reputation for efficiency and ruthlessness had spread throughout the Kthar Belt and beyond, making their name synonymous with inevitable death. "Remember the Viridian mining station," Forlag said, his voice taking on a reminiscent tone. "They thought their security forces could hold us off." Ryla chuckled, a sound like metal scraping against stone. 15 minutes. That's all it took to breach their impenetrable defenses. 14 minutes and 27 seconds, Zwayan corrected without looking up from his console. And that was only because Grok insisted on breaking down the final blast door manually instead of letting me slice through the security protocols. Grok made a dismissive gesture. "Your way lacks satisfaction." Forlag's lips curled into another fanged smile. The Viridians learned an expensive lesson that day, as will this convoy. He moved back to his command chair, settling his massive frame into it. "The cargo they're carrying is worth more than most planetary economies in this sector. Crystallized quantum catalyst. Rare, unstable, valuable. Worth killing for," Ryla added unnecessarily. "Worth dying for," Forlag corrected. "Though not our dying, of course." He leaned forward, studying the tactical display. "We strike hard and fast. Disable the escort vessels first, then immobilize the cargo ships. No unnecessary damage to the cargo holds. I want a clean operation." The bridge crew nodded in unison. They had performed this dance countless times before, reducing it to a science. The Cthars claws did not believe in fair fights or honorable combat. They believed in overwhelming force, applied with surgical precision and merciless efficiency. Forlag felt the familiar surge of predatory anticipation. Soon, they would unleash death and chaos upon their unsuspecting prey. Soon, they would add another successful hunt to their long list of victories. Soon, Commander! Zyn's voice cut through Forlag's thoughts, higher pitched than usual. I'm detecting an unidentified vessel entering the sector. Forlag frowned, his reverie broken. Show me. The tactical display shifted, highlighting a small ship moving rapidly through the asteroid field. Its course was erratic, unpredictable, as if the pilot was deliberately avoiding any semblance of a pattern. Is it part of the convoy? Forlag asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Zyn shook his head. Negative. It's not broadcasting any known identification codes. And its design, he hesitated. It doesn't match any known configuration in our database. A scout ship? Riban Mercenarios. Forlag didn't like unknowns in his carefully planned operations. I'm not sure. Zyn's fingers flew over his console. The energy signature is unusual, and its hull composition doesn't match standard materials used in this sector. Forlag waved a dismissive hand. Probably just some independent trader who strayed into the wrong part of space. Ignore it. We have bigger prey to hunt. Wait. It was Grok who spoke, surprising everyone. The giant rarely offered opinions during mission planning. That ship. Look at its movement pattern. They all turned to the tactical display. The unidentified vessel was indeed moving strangely, making sharp turns and sudden accelerations that should have torn apart any normal ship. Those maneuvers. Ryla's voice had lost its eager edge. No inertial dampeners could compensate for that kind of stress. The pilot would be crushed. Unless... Zyn's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with dread. Unless they're Deathworlders. A tense silence fell over the bridge. Deathworlders. The word itself seemed to lower the temperature in the room. Nonsense, Forlag snapped, but there was a new tension in his posture. Humans rarely venture this far into the outer territories, and when they do, they travel in packs, not alone. But the ship design, Zyn insisted, his voice still hushed. The unusual metals, the energy, signature. It matches the descriptions I've heard. I've heard stories, Ryla said slowly, about human ships. They don't build like other species. They build redundantly, as if they expect parts of their ships to be destroyed regularly, as if damage is their baseline assumption. They come from a world that tries to kill them daily, Grok added, his usual stoicism giving way to a hint of unease. Their bodies evolved to survive levels of radiation, pressure, and toxins that would kill most sentient species instantly. They call their homeworld Earth. We would call it Hell. Forlag growled, showing his fangs. I won't have my bridge crew spouting superstitious nonsense. Humans are just another species. Unusual, yes. Dangerous, perhaps. But they bleed and die like any other prey. But despite his words, Forlag felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping along his spine. Was it doubt? Uncertainty? No, it couldn't be. He had faced the deadliest adversaries in the galaxy and emerged victorious every time. One human vessel, if it even was human, would not derail his plans. Keep monitoring the ship, he ordered Zyn, but maintain focus on our primary target. The convoy is what matters. Yet even as he spoke, the tactical display updated. The unidentified vessel had suddenly changed course again. It was now heading directly toward the approaching convoy. What is it doing? Forlag muttered, more to himself than to his crew. Zyn's fingers danced over his controls, trying to extract more information. It's broadcasting a message to the convoy. An open channel communication. Let's hear it, Forlag commanded. A moment later, a voice filled the bridge, a strange, flat voice speaking the common galactic trade language with an accent none of them had heard before. Attention convoy vessels. This is Captain Maya Chun of the Earth Merchant Marine Vessel Horizon Seeker. We've detected unusual radiation patterns ahead in your plotted course. Recommend immediate course correction to avoid potential hazard. We're transmitting safe coordinates now. Please acknowledge. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Forlag's frown deepened. They're warning them? Rylas sounded incredulous. About what radiation? There's nothing dangerous in the convoy's path except us. Zyn's console beeped. The convoy is responding. They're thanking the human vessel and adjusting their course. Forlag slammed a fist down on his armrest. They're changing course? To where? The tactical display updated, showing the convoy's new trajectory, a path that would take them well away from the Night Hunters' carefully planned ambush point. This is unacceptable, Forlag snarled. The human is interfering with our hunt. Why would they warn a convoy? What do they gain? No one had an answer. In the predatory world of the Cathar Belt, altruism was an unknown concept. Every action was calculated for maximum personal benefit. Warning strangers of danger offered no obvious advantage. New plan, Forlag decided after a moment of tense silence. We move to intercept the convoy along their new course. We'll need to abandon our current hiding spot, but we can still catch them before they reach the next checkpoint. The crew moved into action, but Forlag noticed a hesitation that hadn't been there before. The mention of humans, of Deathworlders, had unsettled them more than he cared to admit. The Night Hunter's engines hummed to life as the Predator ship slipped out from its asteroid hideaway, moving silently through the void. Forlag kept his eyes fixed on the tactical display, watching both the convoy and the human vessel. The latter had positioned itself alongside the lead convoy ship, matching its speed exactly. They're escorting them now? Forlag couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. It appears so, Zyn confirmed. And I'm detecting communications between them. Substantial data transfers. What kind of data? Impossible to tell from this distance. But it's extensive. Forlag drummed his claws on his armrest. This human interference was an unwelcome complication, but not insurmountable. Thar's claws had overcome worse obstacles. Maintain course, he ordered. We'll intercept them at these coordinates. He indicated a point on the display where the convoy would need to navigate through a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. Their new path forces them through the needle's eye. It's a natural bottleneck. They'll have to slow down, and when they do, a violent explosion cut off his words, rocking the convoy's lead ship. Alarms blared across the Night Hunter's bridge as the tactical display filled with new information. What's happening? Forlag demanded. Zyn's hands flew across his console. One of the convoy's escort ships just suffered a catastrophic engine failure. Some kind of internal explosion. They're drifting out of control. The tactical display showed chaos unfolding. The damaged escort ship was spinning, venting atmosphere and debris. The rest of the convoy was breaking formation, trying to avoid collision. Forlag's predatory instincts surged. The perfect distraction. They're vulnerable. Prepare to attack. Commander, Ryla interrupted, her voice strangely subdued. Look at the human ship. On the display, the Horizon Seeker was no longer alongside the lead convoy vessel. Instead, it was accelerating toward the damaged escort ship. As they watched, the human vessel deployed some kind of energy tether, latching onto the spinning escort ship and beginning to stabilize it. What are they doing? Forlag asked, genuine confusion in his voice. They appear to be assisting, Zyn replied, sounding equally baffled. They've launched smaller craft as well. Shuttles of some kind. The display zoomed in, showing several small vessels emerging from the Horizon Seeker. The shuttles moved with incredible precision, attaching themselves to different parts of the damaged escort ship. They're conducting emergency repairs, Zyn reported, incredulity evident in his voice. And evacuation procedures. They're rescuing the crew. Forlag stared at the display, struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. Why? Those aren't their people. That's not their ship. Why risk themselves? No one had an answer. As they watched, a large piece of debris from the explosion hurtled toward the human vessel. The Night Hunter's crew tensed instinctively, expecting disaster. But the Horizon Seeker merely extended a minimal energy shield, just enough to deflect the debris without disrupting their rescue operation. They didn't even pause in their work. Their shield technology, Ryla whispered, it's incredibly precise. They used exactly the necessary energy and not a joule more, even as they're conducting repairs and rescue operations. This doesn't make sense, Forlag growled. But it changes nothing. The convoy is still vulnerable. This is our chance to strike. He could feel his crew's hesitation, but they obeyed. The Night Hunter accelerated, moving into attack position. Target the rearmost cargo vessel, Forlag ordered. Disable its engines first, then its communications array. Ryla complied, but her usual enthusiasm was notably absent. Weapons locked, awaiting your command. Forlag hesitated, his eyes fixed on the human ship still engaged in rescue operations. Something about the scene disturbed him on a primal level. It violated every principle of survival and self-interest that govern life in the Kthar Belt. Fire, he commanded, pushing aside his unease. The Night Hunter's phase disruptors lanced out, striking the cargo vessel's engine housing with pinpoint accuracy. The ship lurched, losing propulsion. Direct hit, Ryla reported. Their engines are offline. Now communications, Forlag ordered. Before Ryla could comply, Ziwayan called out, Commander, the human vessel, it's breaking off from rescue. Operations. Forlag turned to the tactical display. The Horizon Seeker had indeed detached from the damaged escort ship, leaving the shuttles to continue the evacuation. It was now accelerating toward the rear of the convoy, toward the ship that the Night Hunter had just disabled. Impossible Vorlag mutered. They couldn't have detected us. Our stealth systems are active. They've launched something, Ziwayan reported, his voice rising in alarm. A small craft, heading directly toward us. On the display, a tiny vessel had emerged from the Horizon Seeker and was moving with incredible speed toward the Night Hunter's position. Destroy it, Forlag ordered immediately. Ryla targeted the approaching craft and fired. The Night Hunter's weapon spat energy toward the tiny target, which somehow twisted in space, evading the shots with maneuvers that defied physics. Ow! Ryla gasped. Nothing can maneuver like that. Keep firing. Forlag commanded, a new sensation gripping him, something he hadn't felt in centuries. Was it fear? The small human craft continued its approach, dancing between energy beams like a leaf in the wind. Then, when it was just a few kilometers away, it transmitted a message. A human voice, calm and measured, filled the Night Hunter's bridge. Unknown vessel. This is Lieutenant Sarah Reeves of Earth Merchant Marine Vessel Horizon Seeker. We are conducting emergency rescue operations. Your hostile actions endanger lives. Cease fire immediately and withdraw. This is your only warning. Forlag snarled, baring all his fangs. They dare to threaten us? Kataris Kluz? Ryla, destroy that impudent little craft. Ryla targeted the shuttle again, but before she could fire, the small human vessel released something, a pulse of energy unlike anything they had seen before. It washed over the Night Hunter, and suddenly the bridge was filled with screeching alarms. Weapons offline, Ryla shouted. Sensors compromised. Shields down, Ziwayan added, panic evident in his voice. All defensive systems non-responsive. Forlag rose from his chair, rage and disbelief warring within him. How could one tiny craft disable a warship of our caliber? Commander, Ziwayan's voice had dropped to a terrified whisper. The human mothership, it's targeting us. Multiple weapon systems. They could destroy us with a single volley. The tactical display, flickering and distorted, showed the Horizon Seeker's primary weapons trained directly on the Night Hunter's vital systems. Yet they weren't firing. They were just waiting. And in that moment, Forlag understood. The humans could have destroyed them immediately. Instead, they had chosen to disable and warn. It wasn't mercy, not exactly. It was something more alien, more incomprehensible. The communications system crackled again. Unknown vessel. You have 10 seconds to power down all remaining offensive systems and withdraw from this sector. After that, we will be forced to take more permanent measures. Your ship appears to have life support redundancies. Your crew should survive our targeted strikes. 5 seconds. Forlag stared at the flickering display, a cold realization seeping through him. The human wasn't threatening to destroy them, just to cripple their ship while deliberately preserving their lives. It was a level of precision and restraint that seemed utterly at odds with the destructive capability they had just demonstrated. Commander? Ryla looked to him, awaiting orders. For the first time in her service, she seemed genuinely afraid. Forlag made his decision. Power down weapons. Divert all remaining energy to engines. Get us out of here. Retreat. Grok rumbled, shock evident even in his usually expressionless face. We have never retreated. We are now, Forlag snapped. Execute my orders. The crew complied, and the night hunter began to pull away from the convoy, limping into the asteroid field at a fraction of its normal speed. For long minutes, no one spoke. The only sounds on the bridge were the strained protests of damaged systems and the labored breathing of the crew. On the tactical display, they could see the human vessel returning to the convoy, resuming its rescue and repair operations as if the confrontation had never happened. Why? Ryla finally broke the silence. We got fought. Our systems are already beginning to recover. We might have prevailed. Forlag stared at the retreating image of the Horizon Seeker. No, he said quietly. We wouldn't have. But they're just one ship, Ryla insisted. And not even a dedicated warship. Their weapons systems were formidable, but not overwhelming. It's not about their weapons, Forlag replied. It's about what they are, how they think, how they fight. He turned to face his crew. Did you see what they did? They were conducting a rescue operation, and they paused it just long enough to neutralize us, deliberately choosing methods that would minimize damage. Then they immediately returned to saving lives, strangers' lives. I don't understand, Ryla admitted. Neither do I, Forlag said. And that's precisely why we retreated. He settled back into his command chair, suddenly feeling the weight of his centuries. Throughout my long career, I've fought enemies of all kinds. Some stronger, some weaker. But all of them operated according to principles I could understand. Self-preservation, territorial defense, resource competition, power, revenge. He gestured toward the now distant convoy. But these humans, they risk their lives for strangers. They use overwhelming force with surgical restraint. They prioritize saving lives over eliminating threats or securing advantages. He shook his head slowly. How do you fight an enemy whose actions you cannot predict because their values are incomprehensible to you? The bridge fell silent again as the crew contemplated his words. I've heard stories, Ziwayan said hesitantly, about human history. Their homeworld is so dangerous that they evolve fighting not just predators, but their entire environment. Extreme temperatures, radiation, disease, natural disasters. And for most of their history, they've fought each other more than any external threat. What's your point? Forlag asked. They don't just survive their death world, Ziwayan continued. They thrive on it. And they do it through cooperation as much as competition. They form bonds with unrelated individuals. They sacrifice for their communities. They've developed cultural values that sometimes place group survival above individual survival. Grok nodded slowly. That is why we call them Deathworlders. Not just because they come from a lethal planet, but because they've integrated death into their way of life. They accept it, plan for it, sometimes embrace it. Their capacity for self-sacrifice makes no evolutionary sense. Yet it has allowed them to conquer their world and reach the stars. Forlag stared out at the stars visible through the bridge viewport. A species that treats death differently, he mused. That sees cooperation as a survival strategy. That values individuals beyond their utility. He shook his head again. How do you predict such creatures? How do you exploit weaknesses in an enemy who voluntarily embraces vulnerability to protect others? No one had an answer. After a long silence, Ryla asked, what do we tell the client about the quantum catalyst we failed to acquire? Forlag's lips curled in a humorless smile. We tell them the truth. The target was being guarded by humans. Any mercenary group with sense would have done the same thing we did. And what is that? Ryla pressed. Forelag turned his gaze back to the stars. Run, live to fight another day, but choose our battles more carefully. His claws drummed once more on his armrest. In a natural order, predators avoid prey that is unpredictable or presents unknown dangers. It's not cowardice. It's survival instinct. The night hunter continued its retreat, disappearing into the depths of the asteroid field. Behind them, the human vessel Horizon Seeker completed its rescue operations, repaired the damaged escort ship as best it could, and continued escorting the convoy to safety. On the bridge of the Night Hunter, Commander Forelag, the most feared predator in the Cthar Belt, contemplated a new kind of fear, not of death or defeat, but of facing something he couldn't comprehend. An enemy whose strength lay not in superior firepower or numbers, but in values and behaviors that defied the ruthless logic of the predator-prey relationship that had governed his entire existence. And he understood, perhaps for the first time, why even veteran killers run when Deathworlders arrive. Not simply because humans were dangerous, though they certainly were, but because they represented something far more threatening, an alternative way of existence. One that challenged the fundamental assumptions upon which predator species like the Xylosians had built their societies and identities. The truly terrifying thing about Deathworlders wasn't that they might kill you. It was that they might change you. As the Night Hunter vanished into the starry darkness, Forelag made a mental note to avoid human vessels in the future. Some prey, he decided, was simply not worth the hunt.